Deep beneath Florida's sunlit forest lies a cave that lured 8 boys into its clutches with whispers of adventure and left them fighting to escape a nightmare of contorted stone. What began as a scout troop's rite of passage became a battle against suffocating darkness, where the human body met limits it was never meant to endure. The air hung heavy with the scent of damp earth and pine resin as 8 teenagers from the San Antonio Boys Village spilled out of a van near the entrance of Boy Scout Cave. Hidden deep within the Ocala National Forest, the cave's jagged limestone mouth seemed almost to breathe, exhaling a chill that prickled the skin. Among the group were Michael Shero, a wiry 15-year-old with a reputation for recklessness, and Javick Henderson, a lanky 16-year-old whose quiet demeanor masked a fierce determination to prove himself. Their counselors, Greg and Tom, 2 burly men whose physiques mirrored the stout oaks surrounding the site, opted to remain above ground. They joked about their so-called dad bods being incompatible with the cave's tighter passage, tossing the boys 9 flashlights with a stern warning to stick to the marked routes and avoid disturbing the resident bat. Boy Scout Cave, a relic of Florida's ancient seabed, had earned its name not from danger but from decades of use by local scout troop. Its tunnel, carved over millennia by acidic groundwater snaking through porous limestone, twisted like a petrified intestine. While most passages were dry and stable, seasoned adventurers knew the cave's dirty secret. The deeper one ventured, the more the walls seemed to contract, as if the earth itself were resisting intrusion. At 12:17 p.m., the boys began their descent. The temperature plummeted instantly, dropping from Florida's balmy 82 degrees Fahrenheit to a clammy 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Their flashlights carved shaky beams through the gloom, illuminating walls studded with fossilized shell, ghostly remnants of a prehistoric ocean that had once submerged the region. Michael took the lead, his wiry frame slipping easily through a slot barely wider than his shoulder. Behind him, Javick muttered under his breath, his voice tinged with unease as he remarked on the cave's oppressive atmosphere, likening it to being swallowed alive by the earth. An hour into the expedition, the group reached the cave's most infamous feature, the Hairpin Curve. Named for its 180-degree bend, the passage was a natural gauntlet. The ceiling dipped to a mere 18 inches, forcing the boys to crawl belly down, while jagged limestone walls narrowed to 16 inches, a width that tested even the slimmest teen's ability to maneuver. The walls, polished smooth by decades of friction from elbows and knees, bore faint grooves that hinted at countless prior expeditions. Michael, fueled by adrenaline, wriggled into the curve first. His flashlight beam danced across the rock, highlighting a jagged seam in the limestone. Unaware of the danger lurking in the cave's geometry, he called back to the others with a laugh, comparing the passage to a playground slide. Javick followed, his broader shoulders scraping against the unyielding stone. Then, silence. Panic erupted as Javick's voice echoed through the passage, strained and desperate. His body had twisted mid-crawl, his left jammed against a protruding rock. Every movement drove the limestone deeper into his flesh, transforming the cave from an adventure into a vice. Michael, trapped just ahead, attempted to backtrack, but the curve's cruel geometry pinned them both. Behind them, the group fractured into chaos. Flashlights flickered as batteries died, casting strobing shadows that amplified the sense of dread. One boy hyperventilated, convinced the counselor's campfire was leaching oxygen from the cave. In reality, the cave's vast air volume, over 30,000 cubic feet, could have sustained them for days, but panic, not physics, had taken hold. Michael's hands trembled as he clawed at the rock, the cave's 72-degree Fahrenheit air feeling arctic against his sweat-soaked skin. Hypothermia, often dismissed as a threat only in icy environments, crept in through conduction. The limestone, a natural conductor, sapped body heat 20 times faster than air, a fact tragically overlooked by even experienced cave divers. Javick's breaths grew shallow, his ribs compressed by the rock, as he slurred words about losing feeling in his leg. Then a thud. Michael's flashlight clattered to the floor, its beam extinguished. Cave swallowed him whole, his body slumping into a fetal curl as unconsciousness claimed him. Above ground, Greg and Tom roasted marshmallows over over a crackling fire, oblivious to the nightmare unfolding below. The remaining boys, now leaderless, faced an impossible choice: stay and risk freezing or abandon their friend. 13-year-old Tyler Nguyen, the youngest of the group, vomited from sheer terror, his fear infecting the others like a virus. Voices rose in a cacophony of panic, one boy shouting they would all die down here as he clawed past the others toward the entrance. The group splintered, half retreating, half paralyzed by guilt. Above ground, Greg's jovial demeanor shattered as the boys emerged pale, shaking, and incoherent. His questions about Michael and Javick were met with fragmented explanations about being stuck, suffocation, and the campfire's smoke. Greg's blood ran cold as he doused the flame, realizing the smoke had seeped into the cave's upper vents, creating an illusion of oxygen deprivation. Tom dialed 911, shouting coordinates to a dispatcher with an urgency that bordered on frenzy. Meanwhile, 1,200 feet underground, Javick drifted in and out of consciousness. Michael's limp body blocked his view, but the distant wail of sirens pierced the silence, offering a fragile thread of hope. By 3 p.m., the Marion County Cave Rescue Unit arrived, a volunteer team of geologists and EMTs led by Carla Mendez, a 4th 11-inch cave diver whose compact frame belied her ferocious expertise. Greg relayed the grim detail: 2 boys trapped in the Hairpin Curve, 1 unconscious. Carla's mind flashed to a 1997 incident in nearby Saltpeter Cave, where overzealous rescuers had fractured a trapped man's ribs during extraction. The team hauled in slimmed-down gear, abandoning hydraulic spreaders as too bulky in favor of air chisels and pediatric backboard. Carla ordered the use of biodegradable vegetable oil, a trick borrowed from Kentucky's Mammoth Cave rescues, to lubricate the rock and reduce friction. Inside the Hairpin Curve, Javick's core temperature had plummeted to 94 degrees Fahrenheit, his muscles locked rigid by mild hypothermia. Carla contorted through the passage, wedging a chisel into the limestone seam near his hip. A strike from her rubber mallet splintered the rock, freeing Javick's leg. Michael posed a grimmer challenge. His airway was compromised, lips tinged blue, as a medic mistakenly administered naloxone before recognizing hypoxia. Oxygen tubes snaked through the passage, feeding Michael air as rescuers chiseled surgical precision. After 137 minutes, Javick spilled into the main chamber, his body shuddering violently under thermal blankets, a visceral reaction to rewarming. Michael followed, limp on a stretcher rigged with skateboard wheels for low-profile transport. Outside, news helicopters circled like vultures, their rotors thrumming as Javick's mother collapsed at the sight of his ashen face on live TV. At the hospital, doctors battled Michael's 88-degree Fahrenheit core temperature with warmed IV fluids and peritoneal lavage, a last-ditch effort to pump heated saline into his abdomen. He woke 26 hours later, murmuring about the cave's unnatural quiet. The state cited the boys' village for inadequate gear, no helmet, a single first aid kit. Greg resigned, haunted by guilt, while Javick abandoned caving entirely. Michael, however, returned to the shadows a year later, narrowly avoiding entrapment in Georgia's Pettyjohn Cave. To him, the rock seemed alive, its memory etched with his name. Boy Scout Cave's tragedy was not an anomaly, but a chapter in a dark anthology. In 1925, Floyd Collins became America's first caving media sensation, trapped for 14 days in Kentucky's Sand Cave. Reporters sold newspapers to crowds singing hymns above ground as Collins succumbed to dehydration and a landslide that crushed his leg. Similarly, Utah's Nutty Putty Cave claimed John Edward Jones in 2009, his body forever entombed in a 10-inch crevice after a 27-hour rescue failed. These stories, separated by decades, share a chilling refrain: caves do not hate, they simply do not care. Caves are not passive voids, but reactive systems. Limestone, a dynamic rock, absorbs stress and shifts imperceptibly. A 2020 MIT study revealed microbial acids in Boy Scout Cave had weakened the Hairpin Curve's walls by 0.3% annually, a decay that likely contributed to Javick's entrapment. Hypothermia, often misunderstood, thrives even in warm cave. Limestone's conductivity drains body heat like a parasite, a phenomenon documented in Dr. Raj Patel's book, Cold Rock, Cold Blood. Today, Boy Scout Cave remains sealed, a monument to hubris and resilience. Michael's memoir, The Quiet Dark, recounts hallucinations of pulsing walls and phantom whisper, a psyche fractured by oxygen deprivation. Meanwhile, rescue teams worldwide adopt Carla's vegetable oil trick, a small victory forged in desperation. The cave's final lesson: arrogance fits poorly in tight spaces, but a little bit of vegetable oil will pop it right out. February 11th, 1998, Weatherly Well, Tennessee. While Boy Scout Cave tested the limits of youthful bravado, Tennessee's Weatherly Well served as a grim reminder that even seasoned experts could fall prey to nature's indifference. On a frigid February morning, the Cumberland Plateau lay shrouded in ice, its skeletal trees creaking under the weight of winter. 4 veteran cave divers, James Lewis, Darl Moore, Jerry Olson, and Alan England, trudged through the frozen woods toward an unmarked fissure Olson had discovered weeks earlier. The cave, unofficially dubbed Weatherly Well after a nearby abandoned mining town, was not on any map. Its entrance, a jagged slit in the limestone, barely 9 inches wide, descending 4 feet before dropping 11 feet into absolute dark. To these men, it was not a warning but a challenge. Alan England, a 63-year-old retired engineer and the group's de facto leader, stood at 5 feet 6 inches and 130 pounds, a physique honed by decades of squeezing through Tennessee's most notorious crevices. His companions were no novices. Moore had survived 14 hours pinned in a Kentucky cave flood. Lewis bore scars from a New Mexico pit collapse, and Olson, the youngest at 37, carried trauma from a Brazilian sinkhole that had nearly claimed his life. Confident, tempered by experience, propelled them forward. England geared up with a frayed Petzl harness, a 200-foot kern mantle rope, and a carbide lamp strapped to his helmet. The plan was simple: descend into the slot, assess the cave's potential, and return. No heroics, no risks. Caves, like capricious gods, thrive on upending human plans. England slithered into the slot head first, his ribs compressing against wet limestone polished smooth by millennia of groundwater. The rock offered no purchase, its surface slick as glass. Inch by agonizing inch, he navigated the 4-foot descent until the slot opened into a vertical shaft. Rappelling down 11 feet, his boots crunched on debris littering the chamber floor. His headlamp revealed a nightmare of geological geometry, a corkscrewing passage studded with stalactites that gleamed like stone fang. Below, another 10-foot drop beckoned, its depth shrouded in shadow. England hesitated. Decades of caving wisdom screamed in his mind. Never push deeper without a partner. He had authored that rule himself after a 1983 incident in Alabama's Neversink Pit, where a rookie cave diver's solo dive ended in a 160-foot freefall. Swallowing his curiosity, England began his ascent. Gravity, once an ally, now betrayed him. The 9-inch slot fused his shoulder, its unyielding edges biting into his flesh. His soaked flannel shirt fused to the rock, leaching body heat with ruthless efficiency. Hypothermia, the silent specter of subterranean exploration, crept in. His core temperature plummeted to 95 degrees Fahrenheit, then 94 degrees Fahrenheit. Shivering escalated to violent convulsion. By 1:30 p.m., the East Tennessee Cave Rescue Team arrived, led by Royce Hightower, a grizzled veteran whose resume included the 1995 extraction of a cave diver pinned under a 2-ton boulder in Wyoming's Bighorn Mountain. Hightower found England's team rigging a makeshift pulley system with climbing carabiners and a truck winch, a well-intentioned but perilous effort. Hightower's team deployed a Texas kick, a maneuver borrowed from oil rigger. Using a portable drill, they bored a hole into the limestone above England, inserted a steel eye bolt, and threaded a 3-to-1 pulley system. The goal: lift England vertically, bypassing the slot's lethal pinch point. England, now hypothermic at 91 degrees Fahrenheit, barely registered the harness tightening around his chest. His mind flickered between lucidity and delirium, flashes of the 1983 Neversink incident merging with the present. The team pulled, inches at first, then a foot. Limestone tore through his shirt, flaying skin as he breached the surface at 4:05 p.m. His face blew white, fingers curled into claws. Paramedics swarmed, slashing away his frozen clothing and swaddling him in heated blanket. His core temperature read 89 degrees Fahrenheit, severe hypothermia, a hair's breadth from cardiac arrest. A medic offered a weak joke about his slender frame saving him. England's slurred reply was a mix of gratitude and self-reproach. Weatherly Well was sealed with concrete in 1999, but not before Hightower's team documented its depths. The tightest squeeze measured 7.5 inches, a death sentence for anyone broader than a child. England retired from caving, devoting himself to safety workshops where he hammered one lesson home. Caves do not care about bravery, they simply wait. Moore and Olson continued caving until 2007, when a close call in Wyoming's Rimstone Traps Cave left Moore with permanent limp. Lewis, ever the pragmatist, traded his harness for binocular, quipping that trees lacked the malice of limestone. England's post-rescue advocacy reshaped caving protocol. His mock entrapment drills forced students to endure 30 minutes in plexiglass tubes, simulating panic in controlled environments. Yet the cave's true legacy lay in its cold indifference. In 2003, spelunkers in Missouri's Tom Moore Cave encountered a nearly identical 9-inch restriction. Remembering Weatherly Well, they turned back. 2 years later, less cautious explorers ignored the warning. Their bodies were recovered after a 72-hour rescue. Weatherly Well remains sealed, its concrete cap a tombstone for ambition. Yet somehow, adventurers and thrill-seekers still come, lured by the same siren song that called Alan England. In 2023, a team using NASA drones rediscovered the cave's lower chamber, finding graffiti etched by 19th-century miner. Turn back. The message, weathered but legible, echoed across centuries, a warning as timeless as the limestone itself. And speaking of limestone, there's actually a lot more to it than meets the eye. Limestone is the skeletal framework of most caves, is a sedimentary rock forged over millions of years from the compressed remains of marine organisms. Dr. Lena Voss, an MIT geobiologist, likens limestone to a living entity. It absorbs stress, shifts imperceptibly, and retaliates. Its porous, calcium carbonate composition makes it uniquely reactive. When rainwater seeps through soil, it absorbs carbon dioxide, forming a weak carbonic acid. This acidic groundwater dissolves limestone like sugar in tea, carving the labyrinthine passages that cave divers navigate. But this process doesn't stop once a cave forms. Microbes, thriving in the damp darkness, accelerate the decay. In 2020, Dr. Voss discovered that acidithiobacillus bacteria in Boy Scout Cave produce sulfuric acid as a metabolic byproduct, eroding walls by 0.3% annually. Over decades, this microbial assault weakens structural integrity, turning stable passages into ticking time bomb. The Hairpin Curve's near collapse during Javick Henderson's 2003 entrapment wasn't a random chance. Core samples extracted post-rescue revealed microfractures lacing the limestone, their patterns mirroring stress points where microbial colonies had flourished. According to Dr. Voss, human exploration intersects with geological timescale. A passage stable for centuries can fail in minutes under the right or wrong condition. Hypothermia, often dismissed as a polar or alpine threat, takes a stealthier form in cave. Limestone's thermal conductivity, 20 times greater than air, siphons body heat through direct contact, a phenomenon Dr. Raj Patel termed conduction cooling. In 1996, Italian diver Marco Piantini learned this lethally in the Frasassi Cave. Trapped in a 68-degree Fahrenheit submerged tunnel, he succumbed to hypothermia within 90 minutes. His core temperature temperature plummeted to 85 degrees Fahrenheit as the limestone drained heat like a parasite. Patel's 2018 study, Cold Rock, Cold Blood, analyzed Michael Shero's near-fatal 88-degree Fahrenheit core temperature in Boy Scout cave, revealing how the body prioritizes vital organ, diverting blood from limbs to protect heart and brain. This survival mechanism, while life-saving, accelerates frostbite in extremity. Even dry caves pose risks. In 2015, a cave diver in New Mexico's Lechuguilla cave suffered third-degree burns after prolonged contact with 75 degrees Fahrenheit limestone. The rock, heated by geothermal activity, created a thermal gradient that cooked his skin while chilling his core, a paradox Patel calls the cave's thermal trap. Modern research leverages these insights. The U.S. National Speleological Society now mandates thermal imaging scans in rescue protocol, identifying heat loss hotspots in real time. Yet, as Dr. Voss warns, limestone's war is eternal. We're just temporary guests. Caves are not passive voids, but dynamic systems. Her 2020 study of Boy Scout Cave revealed microbial acids had eroded the Hairpin Curve's walls by 0.3% annually, a decay that likely sealed Javick Henderson's fate. Hypothermia, often misunderstood, thrives even in warm cave. Limestone conducts heat 20 times faster than air, a phenomenon dissected in Dr. Raj Patel's Cold Rock, Cold Blood. Patel's analysis of Michael Shero's 88 degrees Fahrenheit core temperature revealed a grim truth. The body prioritizes vital organs, sacrificing limbs to the cold. The tragedies at Boy Scout Cave and Weatherly Well are footnotes in a long and dark history. In 1925, Floyd Collins became America's first caving media sensation. Trapped for 14 days in Kentucky's sand cave, reporters sold newspapers to hymn-singing crowds as Collins succumbed to dehydration and a landslide that crushed his leg. His brother Homer, tunneling desperately with a pickaxe, broken and completely dejected. Utah's Nutty Putty Cave echoed this sentiment in 2009. John Edward Jones, 26, descended headfirst into an unmapped crevice, his fate sealed by a 10-inch wide dead man's crawl. Rescuers drilled for 27 hours, but unstable sandstone collapsed, entombing him forever. But we'll have the full scoop on what is arguably the most famous modern cave diving incident in another video, so watch this space. While it is still objectively one of the most dangerous activities on Earth, spelunking has come a long way from the days of duct tape and misplaced optimism. Caving technology has evolved by leaps and bounds, but innovation often outpaces understanding. The 2016 CaveLink GPS transceiver, hailed as a rescue revolution, epitomizes this peril. Marketed as a subterranean lifeline, it used low-frequency radio waves to penetrate rock. But during a 2019 rescue in Montana's Hellhole Cave, quartz veins refracted its signal, creating phantom coordinates 2 miles off course. "We nearly tunneled into a grizzly den," admitted rescuer Hank Yates. The device's failure echoed a 2007 incident in Spain's Sistema del Mortellano, where a similar system led rescuers into a flash flood zone. 3D LiDAR mapping, another game changer, has its own blind spot. While it renders caves in micron-perfect detail, environmental variable, humidity, temperature shifts, even bat guano distort scan. In 2021, a team in Belize's Actun Tunachil Muknal cave relied on LiDAR to navigate a 14-inch squeeze, only to find rainfall had swollen the passage to 12 inches. Veteran cave diver Darrell Moore's critique rings true. Maps can't digitize claustrophobia, but on the flip side, technology isn't universally doomed. NASA's cave rovers, tested in Iceland's lava tubes in 2022, deploy multispectral sensors to detect oxygen levels and structural stress. These drones, no larger than a paperback, map hazardous zones in minutes, a task that once took humans days. During a 2023 expedition in Oman's Majlis al-Jinn cave, rovers identified a methane pocket hours before a team arrived, preventing a potential explosion. The psychological ecological impact of tech reliance complicates progress. A 2022 University of Bristol study found cave divers using GPS made 30% more navigational errors than those relying on analog tools. Emerging innovations tread cautiously. The 2024 Cave Sense vest, embedded with biometric sensor, vibrates to warn of rising CO2 or dropping oxygen. Meanwhile, AI algorithms trained on 10,000 rescue scenarios now predict collapse risks with 89% accuracy. The future? Hybrid. In 2025, the European Space Agency plans to deploy cave rovers alongside human teams on Mars, blending silicon and synapse. For now, Earth's caves remain a proving ground, a reminder that every tool must bow to the rock's immutable will.